Good day to you, wherever in the world you happen to be. I'm Elizabeth Serrier. I will be your host today for this session of Research Focus, and I have the pleasure and the honor of interviewing Dr. Srikanth Umakanthan, who is in the top 2% of cited researchers according to the annual Global Ranking of Scientists published by academics from Stanford University and Elsevier. Before we dive in, please allow me to tell you a little about our special guest today. So, Dr. Umakanthan serves as a lecturer and consultant in anatomical pathology at the Faculty of Medical Sciences at the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies. His research interests include oncopathology, infectious disease, and the global burden of disease. He's also a senior researcher in the Global Burden of Disease Collaborator Network, coordinated by the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington. Srikanth leads research focused on systematic quantitative analysis of risk factors and the magnitude of health loss from diseases, injuries, and cancers in the Caribbean region through the GBD initiative. So I should also mention here that I actually met Srikanth through the GBD Collaborator Network and the Caribbean Regional Group. I serve as the Assistant Director of Engagement at IHME, which, as we previously mentioned, is the coordinating center for the GBD Collaborator Network and the GBD study. And so with that, let's get to our interview. So Srikanth, first of all, congratulations on this quite significant accomplishment. Can you tell us a little
Thanks a
about your
lot.
journey from a young boy to an award-winning researcher, consultant pathologist, and university lecturer? Over to you.
Thanks a lot, Elise, for this wonderful introduction. It's really humbling to know that the achievements does matter through this hard, what aspiring journey of research and as well as a professional life. So going back to years, as you mentioned, young boy, that is quite a number of years back. So when I was in school, I was always fascinated about biology, like with regarding to the organs within a human body, especially targeting on the heart. Like I used to wonder how effortlessly and how tirelessly this particular organ functions throughout the life. And when I was in, I think, fourth standard or something, I went and opened the book of my brother, who's 4 years elder to me. So he was in eighth standard. And there I read a lot about the human body and with focus from heart to the brain to the other organs. So by fourth standard, I was already into the human body and knowing what exactly is happening. And a few years fast forward, like when I was in ninth or 10th standard, I was always making a note of individuals who received a Nobel Prize for medicine and physiology. So I think in that particular year, I think it was in 96 or 97, I remember that the Nobel Prize for medicine was received by two scientists who did a discovery on the effect of the cell and its immune function, like how effectively a cell can be a defensive agent against the infections and also the cancer proliferation. So that small article, which I read in the newspaper in that era, was very striking to me. Like to identify the relevance of research and invention within the human body, and also the interest in biology really pushed me along to get into medicine. And when I went into medicine, when I came into second years, that's when I was exposed to pathology. And the importance of pathology was to know the root cause of a disease. So when you know the root cause of a disease, the treatment strategies and everything improves by itself. So is the healthcare and the prognosis of the patients who are suffering. So pathology fascinated me because of identifying the etiopathogenesis, that is the root cause of a disease, and also the variety of systems that pathology covers. Like we cover almost all the systems in the body. And that gave me a very interesting focus to be a pathologist. And that's how, when I wrote my entrance exam, I successfully got into pathology post graduation in Kasturba Medical College, that is in Mangalore, Manipal University in India. So at that time, as a first year postgraduate student, we had to select research topics. So with era of these research topics, again, it goes under the supervision of the senior professional person, that is the guide. And the guide gave me an idea of what topic to take. So the research journey actually started in my first year of post graduation, and then it continued with going into Tata Memorial Hospital, where I did my oncopathology as a senior resident. So there I was driven into the way the fellow students used to present their research prospects and the proposals. And also, it gave me a very serious idea about how accurately you can project your project in a very quantitative, conclusive manner, like going into the statistical component. And so I had an idea of research in post graduation and more in depth knowledge about statistics in Tata Memorial Hospital, which I used. And when I came into the University of West Indies in St. Augustine, I drafted a proposal, and that's how the journey started. And what I am doing now is just an accumulation of experience and things which I followed my dream and passion from as young as fourth standard, and I'm just doing the same now.
Right. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for that background, Dr. Umakanthan. So, from a young boy reading your older brother's books to medical hospital in India and now in St. Augustine campus in Trinidad in the Caribbean. So, before we dive into some more about your important research projects that shaped your entire journey, tell me how you ended up from hospital in India to University of the West Indies in Trinidad.
Okay, and that's quite an interesting story because when I was doing my post graduation, like I finished my thesis, completed it, and then I immediately went into Tata Memorial Hospital, which is a very premier and an old cancer hospital in India. So that period where I worked for about 5 to 6 months was very, I won't call it as a daunting task, but I feel it was very hard for me because each day lasted for around 15 hours. We used to go to work at around 7 o'clock in the morning and start reporting, seeing the slides for the consultant's report, which used to start at 9 o'clock. So from 9 to 10, we used to report slides with the consultants, mainly leukemias, lymphomas, all kinds of high prognostic oncology cases. Then we used to go to the clinics in the outpatient department at around 11 o'clock. So when I went into attending those outpatient clinics, it was very emotional and very depressing. Depressing for the on the human side, emotional on a professional side, because these were the poor patients who used to come to the clinic with maybe a child 5 or 6 years old with parents, or just young couples who were just married and few were old. So these patients who, first of all, they were poor, they had no money. Second was that they used to come and present at a stage of cancer, which was usually late stages, where we could only diagnose and tell the patient or the parents that this is the last stage of cancer. And many of the times we used to diagnose these high-end aggressive cases like Burkitt's lymphoma, diffuse large B-cell lymphomas, and lymphoblastic lymphomas. And these reports were not just pathological reports; these were like death sentences. So day in day out, you go into these clinics, you give out reports, and there is the emotional line of the parent who wants to save a 6 or 7 year old child, and he's ready to give everything even though he has no monetary measures, and all he says that just I am ready to give my life to save the child. But that was very sad for me. And we were doing our best in oncology at Tata Memorial. And as I told you, it was a very an extended time. Like one day lasted for 15 hours. So I used to go out at 7 o'clock in the morning to into the lab and come out only at around 10:30 p.m. in the night. And it was diagnostics. It was just seeing slides from morning till night and dealing with cases and patients. And even when you had to go and have food in the canteen, we had to walk through the inpatient clinic, which had uh, patients who had just undergone surgeries of radical neck dissection, and they were almost suffering to have an easy breath of life. So that
Right.
extended to this period, and it was very daunting to me. So I took a break, and I wanted to check retrospectively and see what is my interest. And my interest was not just diagnostics. Yeah, I was more interested in teaching because that was my passion. I always wanted to uh, preach what I read in my books, and I used to do that when I was a postgraduate student. I used to take classes for undergraduates on behalf of the staff, and I like to teach. So that's when I wanted to teach, and I wanted to work as a pathologist in areas where there is very deficient specialized pathologists. So that's when I saw a vacancy in the University of West Indies, Trinidad. That was way back in 2012, where I applied for this post, and fortunately I got through. And when I read the advertisement, it said Trinidad and Tobago, and the only thing I remembered about Trinidad at that period of time was Brian Lara. He was my favorite cricketer, and Brian Lara, Trinidad, and me. So I felt that was a very good combination. And I came sailing through here. I came sailing through here, and I was welcomed by my colleagues, the department, the faculty, and the university in a very warm way. And
Yeah.
it was very nice. It is very nice even now because we I consider the department as a family, and the faculty as well as the university as a very dear to me. So I'm doing things which I love to in a very passionate way, and it's fulfilling in the way the achievements come through as we do the hard work. So that's how I am here.
Aha, fantastic. Thank you so much for all of that, Srikanth. I think you succeeded there in putting, a very human picture on research, on medicine, on prevention, because from all of that too, I get, the human side of, suffering and what happens. Often in research, we see, just numbers and points of data, etc., but not really the people behind it. So thank you for that. And also just jumped out at me there. A good point to make the plug for early detection, of course, because that in your story was a lot of late detection and all the, suffering that goes along with it. And so thank you so much for that. And, we're welcome. We're happy that you are at St. Augustine in the Caribbean. And so would you tell us, I think, about some of the most important research projects that shaped your journey, and also as part of one of your current roles is a lecturer at the St. Augustine campus. So a little bit about your research there as well.
Sure, Elise. With regarding to the research journey, I mentioned that it goes back to the post-graduation times, the first year post-graduation, where we had to decide on a research topic for the thesis and dissertation. So there I was very naive in the research field. So it mainly depended upon the research supervisor on how a young student would be guided into research. So I was fortunate to be guided by a very experienced staff at that time. That is Dr. Jyotikini. So she was my principal invigilator as well as the research guide. So she gave me a thesis project named as the inter-observer variation of histomorphological features of ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. So this was not an easy research project because this research project, to give you a gist of it, was to collect a slide from the area, collect a slide from the tissue, and that slide, which was diagnosed as ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, had to rotate through observers. And these were the five observers. So we had to decide on five observers. And these five observers were not just naive like me, they were all professors. So there was Professor Mukta Pai, who was the head of department. There was Professor Radha Pai, Professor Urmila Kadilkar, who was a very uh, a well-known hematopathologist, and there was Dr. Jyoti Gini, who was like a figure in pathology for us, and then my research guide, that is Jyoti Gini. So I used to joke with my colleagues, with my friends, saying that each one of you have one research guide, but I have five well-known guides to guide me. So
Uh-huh.
every time we used to take a slide and go and sit with them, it was not just the observation of that particular slide, but it was the amount of experience which they put upon me. That is maybe professional, their own personal experience, research experience, as well as the experience in academics. So I had this privilege of garnering the experiences of these five great people. And when I completed my thesis, I actually had a very good idea of what research means. So my thesis project, which was inter-observer variation of histomorphological features in inflammatory bowel disease, was the stepping stone for my entry into research. And there were limitations in the project, like we could not do immunohistochemical stains. As a result, it couldn't be published easily because every journal where I used to submit looked into the aspect of recent advances, and that ended up as a limitation. So when I went into Tata Memorial Hospital, when I told you that I was drilled into the statistical aspect and the quantitative aspect of research. So that idea, as well as the experience which I garnered from the thesis project, I got in the University of West Indies in Trinidad. So I wanted to do something which is relevant to this particular place. Like I tried to get in the using the immunohistochemical markers for my thesis project, but that was there were a lot of challenges. So I tried to start something relevant of to cancer in Trinidad, and I finally figured out that lung carcinoma required a lot of recent way of giving a pathology report to the surgeon and to the public. So that's when we have to categorize these lung carcinomas, we used to just give reports based on histomorphology. So I thought of using or utilizing the role of immunohistochemical studies in further giving a more modified report, which would help the patient as well as the surgeon to give a targeted therapy towards lung tumors. So there I drafted my what I call it as a baby project, because I started doing it very. It was a dream. It was a passion. So I wrote the research proposal. I submitted it to the ethics committee, to the campus research fund, and both the places it was accepted easily, and I was granted a fund of around 10,000 US dollars for that project.
Mhm.
So that was a very significant achievement for me, because I learned in and out of research through that project. And after completion of a lung cancer project, I published it, even though it took extended period of time. I published it in 2020. So that gave me a complete idea of what a research means. It is not just starting the project and leaving it midway, and neither is
Mhm.
it about just prolong it, prolonging it over and over. The research
Mhm.
project ends when you publish the findings to the public, and how that will provide a societal impact, and how it can change a particular area or region or a country. So, lung research project is my very important project which shaped my career. And I followed it up through other projects like the PAP smearing for detecting early cervical cancers, and then we did breast carcinoma projects, and we are still rolling on with the cancer projects.
Great. Thank you so much for such a comprehensive answer, Dr. Umakanthan. I'm especially, enthused to hear you say that the research doesn't end with the publication. However, it really needs to be connected to the context and you get the results and the actual implication or improvement to life that comes from it and not just, being on a in a journal being read, but actually applied. And so, in line with that, as a follow up, have you been able to see any direct impact of your work in these areas?
Very much, especially the lung research project and the pap smearing on cervical cancers. Those two projects were very was very informative to the public as well as to the surgeons, because as I mentioned, it provided a more comprehensive categorization of lung carcinomas. So rather than just giving the patient is diagnosed with primary lung malignancy, we, with the use of immunohistochemistry, could narrow down on a particular subtype, histological subtype of the tumor, like a squamous cell carcinoma, small cell carcinoma, or adenocarcinoma. So, giving a more comprehensive report to the surgeon would help them to give a more targeted approach of treatment. For example, in small cell, we give a more aggressive manner of treatment. Hence, the prognosis of an aggressive tumor suddenly shifts to a very good prognostic thing. So, lung carcinoma project helped me to do that, and that I could see because I also am a consultant pathologist. So I see slides in and out on thoracic surgery, and also we attend the multidisciplinary team meetings and see the impact it can directly have on the public. So lung research project is one of that, and the second one was the correlation of pap smears in the identifying the histopathological and risk factors of cervical carcinomas. So
Mm-hmm.
this project was mainly driven through the students. And these students are the young undergraduate students who are very motivated to do very good research. And I luckily got a very good group of students, and along with them, we did this project of pap smears and its role in detecting early cervical cancers. And it took around 1 year to complete the project and another 18 months to publish this research. So when this went into publication, it was also presented in the regional level at the conferences as well as poster presentations, and also at the research uh, fair, which was held in the University of West Indies. So this was more propagated to the public because we wanted to give an idea to the public how vital a simple screening technique like a pap smear could detect a very aggressive cervical carcinoma at an early stage. And we can cause a break in that flow of early lesion to an aggressive lesion by just doing a pap smear. And then I think the regional health authorities started the Great PAP initiative, which is routinely conducting to all these high risk women who are at the risk of developing cervical carcinomas. So that is another significant societal impact which my research has played. And going forward, we have many of the projects on the sleeve, and I'm sure each one will do justice in its own way.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I think, in addition to societal impact, so continuity and sustainability are also two super important consideration when it comes to research. Outside of what you've just mentioned, are there any other ways in which you address these two in your day-to-day professional life?
Yeah, so I have a tripod mechanism. One is I'm a lecturer in anatomical pathology. So I see these young minds, very vibrant minds of medical students in third years. They're full of energy. So whenever I go and take a lecture, that energy gets transformed into me and I reflect their energy. So teaching continuously to them is very, very important for me. and that actually drives me forward. And the second part is I'm also the program director for anatomical pathology at St. Augustine campus. So we have postgraduate students, and I see the reflection of the same thing of what I went through in them. They have they do work hard, they are focused, they are interested in pathology, and I try to show them or showcase them the importance of research, which should not be forgotten in their day to day activities. So the research candidates have their own research proposals and thesis to complete within that framework. And moving into the faculty level, I represent the faculty, the School of Medicine, as a member for the campus research agenda project, where we look into prioritizing research based on relevance and innovation, and then we validate that research topics through the faculty level, the campus level, and also to the policy stakeholders. And then we showcase them to the public, stating that this is the importance of research in this era and how this can help in with future research topics. So, starting from a young mind of teaching undergraduates anatomical pathology and bridging it with the postgraduate students to show them what is the importance of research, and extending it into the campus level. And as I mentioned, we are in linked with a global burden of disease, and that would also cover the regional aspect of research.
Great. Thank you for that. So, if I were, say, a young person and I'm interested in getting involved with research projects, and I asked you to share some of the most common challenges that you've encountered during your own research projects, what would you tell me? What would your answer be?
Well, it goes back to the dream which you have, or what you aspire to do through research. So, my research proposal starts from the dream. Like, what exactly are you thinking to bring about a change in the society? So, it's a rewind process. It should not start with you and you be very proud of your achievements in the research field. It has nothing to do. It has to reflect in the society and in your day to day activities. So the first thing is to dream in a very proper way, and then you need to passionately write the proposal, because many a times the young academicians and the students, the postgraduate students, do not show their passion in research proposal forms. You need to strike a chord between yourself and to the committee wherever it is going, that you are passionate about doing this research, not for just adding a publication or increasing your citations, but on a public domain. How a health authority or how a university or an institute and a country can benefit with your research. So proposal, a proper idea with a proposal plan, and once you get a research hypothesis, you have a proper aim and objective. You can start off with the sampling methods. So the sampling methods can vary from a more original random control trials to stratified sampling techniques or clustered sampling, and then comes the data collection. Data collection, again, there are three types. One is experimental data, then observation data or survey data. And when you collect the data is where I see there are a lot of challenges which we encounter. One is it is a laborious task. It takes time to collect data, and then it takes time to assimilate those data and add in the statistical importance of each and every aspect or a variable. So when you are doing the statistical relevance of the data which you have collected and then converting it into a result interpretation, you get a lot of limitations, and those limitations has to be echoed in the research project or in a research paper. Many a times I have seen I am a reviewer in many of renowned journals. So I see that many of these authors just put in only the strengths of their research project, and there is no liner or statement about the limitation. And I can bet on this 100% that there is no research without limitations. I'm sure there's at least 20-25% of restrictions, limitations, either at methodology level when you're creating a bias. Uh, you need to identify the bias. If you don't identify the bias, there's no way you're eliminating or minimizing it. And that has to be showcased in your research. It might look, you as an author might feel it can bring down the quality of your paper. No, it does add on to the quality of the author, because there we can judge that this author is authentic. He's not hiding behind anything. So when it comes to methodology, be as transparent as possible in your conclusion statements of the research. And the third aspect is publication. Many of the students just do their thesis and dissertation and then forget about it. There's very few who continue to aspire to to publicize that research finding in a reflective manner to the public. So publication is very important, and that can be guided by senior academic staff or the research supervisors or your guide. They are the best people who can help you. And it's very important to publicize these kind of research projects in non-predatory high impact factor journal. I want to stress upon this high impact factor. I know that majority of these high impact factor journals attracts a very high article processing charges, that is the EPC charges. But there are many ways where you can ask for a discount or get it projected through the universities to have it publication in a journal. That is another hiccup which usually the young researchers encounter. And finally, you need to reflect what you have done on the younger students also. So you need to carry forward the importance of research to the generations which might come. So yeah, this is a flowchart of thing which includes the process of research, the limitations of research, and the importance of research.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Thank you so much for that very thorough answer. It's very clear to follow, and I really love that it's steeped in the utility of research to the populations where they're taking place, and also the transparency, and identifying all the limitations as well, because that's the way that we do engage critical thinking to move forward if we know both strengths and limitations. So thank you for that. So now, Dr. Umakanthan, looking ahead, what are your plans? So tell me, are there any specific areas that you would like to address or that you are interested in conducting some more research?
Presently, I have few research projects up my sleeve. As I mentioned, we are currently doing autopsy-based research, an original article on sudden cardiac death. And this is important in this region because there are a lot of sudden cardiac death cases occurring at a younger level. So we want to highlight the importance of the risk factors and how those preventable risk factors can be showcased to the public. So research on sudden cardiac death and its the etiopathogenesis, the risk factors, and the relevance of preventive measures is one up there. And the second is a dissertation project by my postgraduate candidate, and that is based on the molecular and histochemical evaluation of endometrial carcinomas. Here we are gonna pick up slides and do molecular genetic profiling as well as immunohistochemical markers to identify three genes. One is the pole gene, which is an ultra-mutated gene. The second is to look out for the microsatellite instability repair, that is the MMR gene, and the most aggressive, which is the TP53 gene. So we are using a tissue block in a retrospective as well as a prospective manner and trying to generate what is a particular gene that is affected in it. And that will help again to identify. This is similar to the lung research project where you can categorize an endometrial carcinoma based on the molecular aspect as well as immunohistochemical aspect to improve the treatment of the patient. And the third one is more region based, and that is it is more staff related project where we are doing molecular characterization of genes involved in prostatic carcinoma in Trinidad and Tobago. So here we are doing a DNA and RNA sequencing on the tissue blocks and the fresh samples, again in a retrospective and a prospective manner. And we are doing a phylogenetic classification of the genes which are involved in prostatic carcinoma. And then we are using our phylogenetic classification and coding it with the international coding sequence. So that is a very interesting region-based project, and along with you, we are doing the global burden cancer burden on the region in the Caribbean region, which includes 18 countries. So we are extracting the data from the GBD collaborate in these 18 countries, and then measuring it through the disability life adjusted years, years of life lost, and years lived with disability, that is DALY, YLL, and YLD. And then we are estimating this and interpreting in age standardized incidence ratio, as well as identifying the prevalence, the mortality, and the incidence. So this is at the region based. So these are the projects in the pipeline, and I echo the same the interest in each of these projects, and hopefully many more to come.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And it is, a great pleasure to be working on the Caribbean Regional GBD project with you and the other researchers from the other islands. Tell us a little bit, Srikanth, how you heard about the GBD, how you got involved with the GBD Collaborator Network.
Yeah, so this goes back again in the pandemic time where the entire world was shut down. That is in 2020. It started in 2019, but early 2020s where we had to work remotely, and there I had a lot of time to do research. So I was looking into something which would be helpful for the public again. So at that time, COVID was very scarce. The literature available for COVID was very less. So I tried to generate interest in looking into what is this COVID and how does it act. So I started making notes, and as I did notes, I used to go and speak in remotely to a few institutes in India, in Brazil, as well as in the region-based areas. So as I spoke and I wrote notes, I thought that it was important to publish this introduction about COVID 19, its literature, whatever was garnered through the news channels, through authentic sources. And I drafted this literature part and sent it to friends all around the world. So I sent it to a friend in Brazil, one in Mexico, one in Australia, one in UK, one in US, and one in UAE, Dubai. So we joined and formed the collaborate, and we dwelled upon what was COVID, how did it occur, and what was the reason for the pandemic, and how could a lab diagnosis help in curtailing the spread of COVID. So we worked on that very fast. We worked in about 15 to 20 days, and we submitted the review of literature about COVID to many journals, but one such journal which accepted it wholeheartedly was the British Medical Journal. So they were very happy with the review, and um, uh, they did the publication on that very soon, and it came up in June 2020. So we worked on it for 1 to 2 months, and we got it uh, publicized in a matter of 3 months. So in June 2020, when this was on the news, uh, within a period of 1 month, it was up on BMJ dashboard as the most frequently viewed and read article. And another week, it went up on the WHO dashboard as literature. Like the entire article was up on the WHO dashboard. So
Right.
there, when we got that in a publication format, I was young in that publication field. So to get an article in BMJ Journal was very what do you say, an achievable task for me as well as to my group. And
Hmm.
when that went up, I started getting citations, and I was so new that I hardly had one or two citations for my all three or four projects. So when this COVID article went up, I got a lot of citations, and I used to still go back and check like who's citing my article. And then I realized that my article was cited in Lancet, in Nature, and then one of it was global burden of disease. So there I wanted to know what is this global burden of disease. Then I went on Google, I researched upon it, and then I was shocked to know that there existed a place called as global burden of disease, which is made up of young research network who are enthusiastic in research. So I
Hmm.
put in my CV. I told them about my research experience and my passion about how I can contribute to global burden of disease. And that's when I got an acceptance letter, I was thrilled. And that's how I gotten into global burden of disease. And it's still very thrilling because GBD network just doesn't focus on pathology. It focuses on infections, on mortality rates in a global
Hmm.
perspective. And narrowing down to region, I feel I'm very honored to be part of global burden of disease. So that's the journey for of me into GBD.
What a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's really, really good to hear. And for any of our listeners out there who might want to know a little bit more about the global burden of disease, the GBD, I'll just tell you a little here and then give you some information about where you can find more information about the GBD, about the collaborator network, and then join or put in an application to join if you're interested in doing so. And so the GBD, or the Global Burden of Disease study, is the world's largest systematic scientific effort to quantify the comparative magnitude of health loss due to diseases, injuries, and risk factors by age, by sex, and geographies for specific points in time. And so this data allows decision makers across the globe to compare the effects of the different diseases, injuries, as well as risk factors, and also to prioritize interventions to improve health and save lives. So, this is coordinated by the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, which is an independent global health research organization at the University of Washington in Seattle, United States. And also, it is done with the help of the GBD Collaborator Network, which is an international network of population health experts of various backgrounds who contribute to the GBD study by sharing data, critiquing results, vetting models and estimates, publishing results, and engaging policymakers as well as, community people, just our general population. So at the moment, to give you an idea, this network has just over 19,000 members from 167 countries around the world. And so, if you're interested in learning more about the GBD and the GBD Collaborator Network, please check out our website at healthdata.org. And so, with that, I think I will turn the floor over to Dr. Umakanthan again, who forms part of the world's top 2% of research scientists, is a consultant pathologist and lecturer at the University of the West Indies, and a senior collaborator in the GBD network. So, congratulations again, Dr. Umakanthan. And I will just have one last question for you. If you have any, parting words to our audience out there, whether they be a student reading the books of their older siblings, or in already in university, or outside of it and young professionals, what would be your word of advice to aspiring researchers out there?
Thanks, Elisa. Uh, the nuance of research is, as I told you, is to dream, and it is important to have a dream, and the dream should be reflected in the proposal of your project. So dream and propose passionately, and then write up a project proposal, submit it, and once you get an acceptance, try to collaborate. It's important to have a research collaboration, because no research can be done alone. It has to have a collaboration of like-minded people, of a like-fielded people in any research. And once you collaborate, you have to execute the steps which you have dreamt of. And execution of research, even though at every step you do encounter a lot of challenges, so there is a way out for each and every trouble which you encounter, or challenges which you encounter during the research. And then as you complete your research project, make sure that you publicize it. That is, you need to publish the research article. So dream, propose, followed by uh, execution, collaboration, then you need to publish the article. So that is the flow chart which I follow. And one thing to remember is that many of us do research for self importance. Like, we get pompous with why we do a research. And once we achieve one or two articles, we feel very self monitored and self appraised person. But here you need to remember that, for example, an undergraduate does research to get into a postgraduate course, and a postgraduate would like to do research for completion of the thesis or dissertation, and a young academician might want to do research to improve the CV or to improve the citations and get a desired promotion. So all that are justified, but also look into the real cause of research. And the real cause of research is goes back into your methodology, where you are identifying the limitations, the bias that has to be transparent in the work which you do. So every time I speak only about good things about research, it doesn't reflect the true me. But you need to reflect on the limitations and the challenges, especially to the young minds or the young students, because you should avoid them falling from the similar hurdles, especially if you are a research supervisor and you have a chance to motivate the younger minds. So be transparent in exhibiting the limitations and bias in the study. And at the same time, you need to conduct this research in a very ethically sensitive environment. So there is nothing which goes wrong, which you know is going wrong. You need to stop it and change it. And after you conduct the research, you need to make sure that your result interpretation, the statistical, the quantitative analysis is proper. And when you get the research report, everything done, you need to showcase it. So showcase it to the public, the stakeholders, the policymakers, the institutions, the universities, the financial institutions, so that they know what is the importance and the relevance of your research in the public, so that you get in more amount of resources for your next future projects. So I would end up by saying that dream and propose your research in a passionate way. You project your research in a very accurate manner, and you publish your research in an impactful manner. So these words, and not to forget, each and every instance of a researcher is motivated by great people. So I would not be here without these great people in my life. So my dad always is on top of the list, because even though he belonged to another field, he was my daily motivating person. And then comes into the academic aspect. So my teachers in the post graduation times, Dr. Mukta Pai, Dr. Himakini, Dr. Radha Pai, all these were fascinating people who drilled my brain with the importance of research. And going into Tata Memorial Hospital, it was the environment where I was surrounded by. So thanks to the people there, whom the patients, the support staff, all who brought in the emotional touch of the relevance of research. And then when I came into the University of West Indies, thanks to Prof. Ezenwaka, who gave me a very detailed idea of what is the importance of research for a young academic candidate. And that was propelled by Prof. Patrick Akpaka, who showed me how to publish the research in very high-end articles. So thanks, and I acknowledge each and every member of them. And I'm sure the students are always in my heart, and that is showcased in the projects which would help the region and the people. Yeah, that's it,
Thank
Elise.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Srikanth. I think we can take away from that that it's a collective effort, whether it be the community that you're immediately surrounded by, or whether it be a more formal network like a collaborator network, that conducting the research, sharing the research, and then bearing, the fruit from the research to improve our health and our lives, all goes again back to the community. So, with that, I would like to say again, congratulations on your achievements, and that we look forward to what's next from you. And I would also like to thank our audience for being with us for this session, and we look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Elise. Thanks a lot.